Ever wander into a restaurant and think, wow, they really nailed this location? Or the opposite, a place with incredible food, but like hidden away in some forgotten corner of the city.
Oh, absolutely.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Today we're doing a deep dive into London restaurants and that make or break factor, location.
Right.
You shared some notes and an article really got me thinking. So let's unpack this culinary puzzle.
What always gets me is that picking a location, well, it's more than just finding a dot on a map. It's about, I think, getting the rhythm of the city, the pulse of the neighborhood, how those things work with your restaurant.
Yeah, because it's true. Some areas just have a vibe, a certain restaurant vibe.
Oh.
Like you wouldn't expect to stumble upon some Michelin star, tasting menu tucked away in a bustling market.
Right, exactly. It's like, think about Mayfair versus Shoreditch for a second.
Okay.
Mayfair, you've got your luxury shops, high-end residents. It's almost like it's calling out for fine dining. But Shoreditch, totally different story. That's where you'd find pop-up restaurants, something experimental, a hidden gem that, like, everyone's suddenly talking about.
So aligning your restaurant's, its personality with the neighborhood is critical. But it's not as simple as just trendy versus traditional, is it? It's more like understanding the people who actually live and breathe in those areas.
You hit it right there. Demographics, they're key. Whether it's age, income, lifestyle, even something as, specific as the average commute time, it all plays into a neighborhood's relationship with food.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Imagine a young professional, let's say in Clerkenwell, grabbing a quick lunch, something healthy, near their office. Totally different scene from, say, a couple in Hampstead looking for a nice leisurely dinner. Different needs, different expectations, all because of where they are in the city.
It's like those demographics that are like hidden taste buds shaping what flavors are going to work in a particular postcode.
Yeah.
So a smart restaurateur needs to be a bit of a detective, wouldn't you say?
100%. You've got to analyze those hidden taste buds, figure out, are you catering to students who, are watching their budget, or families who need a child-friendly atmosphere? It's all about understanding who that ideal customer is and then, going where they are.
Finding that sweet spot where what you want to create meets what people want to eat. But once you've cracked the demographics, it's all about foot traffic, right? Location. That's the golden rule.
It's tempting to think, oh, more people, more customers. But it's not that straightforward. The quality, the timing, that matters just as much as sheer numbers. You need to get into the flow of people throughout the day.
Okay, walk me through that. A day in the life of London foot traffic. What does that look like?
Picture this. Liverpool Street Station, morning rush. It's a sea of people grabbing coffee, a pastry, rushing to work. That right there, that's prime real estate for a breakfast spot, something you can grab and go. Now, fast forward to lunchtime in Canary Wharf. Different crowd, office workers looking for a quick bite or a business lunch. And then evening hits, the energy shifts again. Soho, Leicester Square, those entertainment districts are buzzing.
So different times, different clientele, different needs. It's almost like, a restaurateur needs to be a conductor, anticipating the next movement in a symphony.
That's a great analogy. And luckily, we're not doing this blindly. We have tools like Placer.ai, Google Maps Insights. They give you this granular data on foot traffic, peak hours, popular days, even demographic info on who's walking by.
So it's not just about counting the bodies. It's about knowing who those bodies are, what they're craving, and when.
Exactly. Imagine you're considering a spot in Fitzrovia known for media and advertising companies. You might find that foot traffic's great during the week, but weekends, dead. So relying heavily on brunch or late night might not be the best strategy there.
It's like having a secret weapon, a way to understand the heartbeat of a neighborhood. This is amazing stuff, but let's face it, London's got a bit of reputation for red tape, right?
Right.
Navigating those regulations, permits, it can feel like navigating a minefield.
Oh, for sure. London definitely has its share of bureaucracy, but knowledge is power. One of the first things you'd want to do is contact the local council for the area you're considering. They'll have the specifics on zoning laws, which basically dictate what kind of business can operate where. Most restaurants here in London fall under Class E. That's for commercial, business, and service uses.
So that tells you if you can even open a restaurant there.
Yeah.
But what about the licenses? Especially for serving alcohol, that's a whole other level.
Oh, absolutely. London takes its alcohol licensing seriously, and for good reason. There's public safety, noise levels, the impact on residents. It's not as easy as just deciding, let's serve cocktails. You need the green light, the permission.
Okay, so Walk me through this licensing maze. What are some hurdles that, aspiring restaurateurs should be prepared for?
Well, first off, there are different licenses depending on what you're planning. A premises license is the most common. That's for selling alcohol for consumption on site. But getting it, well, it's a process. You have to prove you understand the licensing objectives, things like preventing crime and disorder, public safety, making sure you're not a nuisance, keeping children safe.
It's not just about shaking a good martini. It's about proving you can run a tight ship, be a good neighbor.
Exactly. And this is important. There's this thing called cumulative impact zones, or CIZs. These are areas where there are already a lot of places with alcohol licenses. And the local authorities, they might be a bit hesitant to add more, to prevent too much concentration and potential problems.
So if you're dreaming of a location in a trendy nightlife spot, you might face a tougher time getting that alcohol license.
Yeah, it's not impossible, but you've got to be smart, plan carefully, and maybe be ready to negotiate, address any concerns they might have.
Yeah, those licensing hurdles, they can feel like a full-time job.
No kidding. But let's switch gears a bit, talk competition. Even with the perfect location, licenses all sorted, you still got to stand out. I mean, London is a jungle of restaurants.
More like a delicious smorgasbord,
Yeah.
really. But you're right, competition, it's fierce. That's why, really understanding your competitors, it's just as important as knowing your customers. You wouldn't open a fancy sushi place right next door to another one.
Yeah.
Unless you were trying to start a sushi war. But I see your point. It's about finding that niche, what makes you special. So how do you actually go about analyzing the competition?
Think of it like detective work. You start by figuring out who your direct and indirect competitors are. Direct. Those are the ones offering, similar food, going after the same kind of customer. Indirect, they might be doing their own thing, but they're still competing for those dining out pounds.
Give me an example. I'm all about those real-world scenarios.
Okay, so let's say you're dreaming of opening a family-friendly Italian place in Notting Hill.
Okay, I'm with you.
Your direct competition, other Italian restaurants in the area, especially those that cater to families. But then you've got your indirect competition. Could be the gastropubs nearby, the Thai takeaway, even that ice cream shop that's, tempting families with dessert.
So you're looking at the whole picture, not just the restaurants that, mirror your exact idea.
Exactly, you got it. Once you know who you're up against, then you can really dig in. What are their strengths? Weaknesses? Are their prices too high? Service slow? Maybe they're not so great online. Those are all opportunities for you.
It's to sort of squeeze into those gaps in the market, make yourself known.
Exactly. You got it.
But let's face it, behind every delicious meal, every Instagram-worthy restaurant interior, there's the rent. How does location play into that?
Oh, rent. Rent is the elephant in the room, or I guess the elephant in the kitchen. And yeah, location, huge factor. Prime areas, the ones, Soho, Mayfair, Covent Garden, those come with a premium price tag. We're talking often over £100 per square foot per year, sometimes even double that.
Oof, that's a serious chunk of change. So what about, for those of us with maybe slightly smaller budgets but big culinary dreams, are there any affordable spots left in this city?
Oh, for sure. That's where those secondary locations, they become really interesting. Places like Camden, Shoreditch, Brixton. You might find rents are a bit easier to stomach there, maybe 50 to 100 pounds per square foot. They might not have the same foot traffic as the prime zones, but they often have this buzz, this independent, up-and-coming energy that can be a real draw.
It's that balance, right? Finding a spot where you can attract enough customers to cover the cost, but not, go broke in the process.
100%. And remember, rent, it's just one piece of the puzzle. Don't forget about business rates, kind of like local property taxes. Those can change a lot depending on the borough.
And of course, those utilities, those always sneak up on you. Electricity, gas, water, internet, they all add up.
Absolutely. And even those can vary, depending on how old the building is, the kind of food you're making, even the time of year.
It's a constant balancing act, isn't it? Your culinary vision versus the less glamorous financial realities.
It really is. That's why you've got to go beyond just gut feeling. You need data, careful analysis. A good rule of thumb in the restaurant biz is your rent. It should be somewhere between 5 to 10% of your projected revenue.
Okay, so if you're aiming for, say, £500,000 in revenue, your rent shouldn't be more than, $50,000?
That's the idea. Helps you stay grounded, financially speaking.
Makes sense. But finding the location, crunching the numbers, that's just the first course. Then you got to get people in the door. And in London, that's an art in itself.
It really is.
Because in a city that's already a feast for the eyes, a restaurant's got to stand out. or it's game over.
You said it. Think of your storefront as your billboard. It's your chance to grab people, make them curious about what you're offering.
So, no hiding on a back street.
Uh-huh.
What are some surefire ways to make your restaurant pop in a cityscape like London's?
Well, you got to understand how people see things, the psychology of it. A corner location, for instance, that's like winning the lottery. You're visible from multiple directions. You've got double the chances of catching someone's eye.
All about maximizing those eyeballs.
Exactly. Then there's signage, your silent salesperson, right. On a busy street like Oxford Street, you need something bold, something that grabs attention. Think bright colors, clear fonts, maybe even an illuminated sign so you stand out at night.
I love those neon signs that light up the night. But what about those charming side streets that are a little more, tucked away? How do you stand out when you're not on the main drag?
You get creative. A hanging sign, one that sticks out, can be really effective in places like Soho or Covent Garden. The streets are narrow, people are looking up as much as they are straight ahead.
Subtle, but effective. And let's not forget about window displays.
Ah, yes, the art of temptation. A well-dressed window, it's like giving people a peek into your restaurant's soul. Showcase those mouth-watering dishes, your style, and make them want to come inside.
You want them practically drooling on the sidewalk.
Exactly. And even simple things like keeping your storefront clean and fresh, a fresh coat of paint, sparkling windows, some plants, it all makes a difference, especially in London where first impressions are everything.
It's like getting ready for a first date. Put your best foot forward. But that's just the start, isn't it? These days, you've got to be just as visible online.
Oh, absolutely. These days, people check their phones before they even decide where to eat.
Okay, so let's get digital. How do you make sure your restaurant is as easy to find online as it is on the street?
First things first, claim your Google My Business listing. Make sure your name, address, phone number, website, it's all up to date, accurate.
Because nothing says amateur like outdated info.
Exactly. Then, of course, you need a website. And not just any website, it's got to be mobile-friendly, look good, and be easy to use. Someone should be able to find your menu, hours, online ordering, you name it, in just a few clicks.
Minimize the clicks, maximize the deliciousness.
That's it, and we can't forget about the power of social media.
Oh, yeah. In the age of Instagram, food photos are everything.
Right. You need a strong presence. And I'm not just talking pretty pictures, those help. It's about telling your story, engaging with people, building excitement around what you're doing.
Give them a taste of the experience before they even walk in.
Exactly. Share some behind-the-scenes stuff, introduce your chefs, highlight events, and don't be afraid to, let your personality show.
It's about making that connection that I want to be a part of this feeling.
Exactly. And don't forget, managing your online reputation, that's important too.
Oh, right, because one bad review can really hurt.
Exactly. Encourage your happy customers to leave reviews, those good reviews, on Google, TripAdvisor, Yelp, all of them. And if you get a bad review, respond professionally. Address their concerns, show you care. It's like online damage control. But instead of a fire extinguisher, you've got great customer service.
That's a great way to put it. And those positive reviews, they really are gold. They're like digital word of mouth. People trust what other people say,
Like little gold stars, showing you're the real deal. We've talked about looking good online and in person, but there's another layer to all this. Marketing.
Yes. The art of filling those seats. Marketing, that's how you go from a great restaurant to a thriving business.
Because you could have the best food, the coolest location, and be a social media whiz, but you still need people to know you exist.
100%. And that's where a good marketing plan comes in. It's about figuring out who you're talking to, understanding what they want, and getting them excited. So if you're opening up a trendy ramen spot in Dalston, you probably shouldn't be focusing your marketing on retirees in Kensington.
Exactly. Know your audience, right?
So let's get specific. What kind of marketing actually works in London's restaurant scene?
Social media. It's your best friend. Instagram especially. Amazing photos of your food, those behind-the-scenes glimpses, engaging stories. It all adds up.
You got to create that fear of missing out.
Yes. FOMO. And don't underestimate influencer marketing. Partner up with local food bloggers, Instagrammers, those TikTokers, the ones who, fit your brand. That gets you in front of a whole new audience.
Like borrowing their audience, their credibility to give your restaurant a boost.
Right. But also, never forget good old-fashioned PR. Getting featured in local publications, online magazines, maybe even national newspapers, that can do wonders.
It's like a stamp of approval from someone people trust.
Exactly. Reach out to food critics, bloggers, journalists, invite them to experience your restaurant. A good review from the right source, that's invaluable.
The marketing equivalent of a Michelin star. But realistically, all this marketing magic, it costs money. What about those of us just starting out? How do you make the most of a smaller budget?
That's the million-dollar question. The good news is you don't need a huge budget to make a splash. It's about being smart. Focus on what gives you the best bang for your buck.
So what are some budget-friendly marketing tactics that really work?
Email marketing. Build a list of your loyal customers, send out regular newsletters with special offers, new menu items, upcoming events.
It's a direct line to people who already like what you do.
Exactly. And it's way cheaper than traditional advertising. Another good one is partnering up with other local businesses. Team up with shops, boutiques, even gyms. Cross-promote each other, offer discounts.
Everyone wins.
Right. And don't forget about being part of the community. Sponsor a local event, join a food festival, offer discounts to people in the neighborhood.
Be a good neighbor.
Exactly. Those relationships, they're worth their weight in gold, especially when things get tough.
So true. But let's be real for a second. At the end of the day, a restaurant is a business. Those delicious dishes, they need to translate into profit.
Absolutely. We can talk location, competition, marketing, but none of it matters if you're not making money.
Right. You could have the most Instagrammable food, the best location, a killer marketing plan, but if you're not profitable, what's the point?
You got it. You need to be on top of your finances, constantly looking at costs, pricing, all of it.
So break it down for us. What are the essentials?
Okay. One of the most important things to understand is your break-even point. That's where your revenue, what you're bringing in, matches your total costs. Basically, where you start actually making a profit.
The moment the deliciousness turns into cold, hard cash.
That's it. To figure out your break-even point, you got to know your fixed costs. Those are the costs that stay the same no matter how much you sell, like rent, utilities, salaries.
The bills that never go away.
Exactly. And then you've got variable costs. Those change depending on how much you sell, things like ingredients, drinks, takeaway containers. Once you have those figured out, then you can start playing around with your pricing, see how different prices affect your profit.
So it's not just about slapping a price on the menu and hoping for the best.
No, not at all. It's about finding that sweet spot, covering your costs, making a profit, and offering prices that make sense for your customers.
A delicate dance.
It is, and it's something you have to keep an eye on. You might find that some dishes are way more profitable than others. Or maybe you need to adjust your pricing because, I don't know, ingredient costs went up.
Always got to stay flexible.
Exactly. And hey, don't underestimate portion control and minimizing food waste.
Because those leftovers can really eat into your profits, pun intended.
Exactly. Reducing waste, it's good for your bottom line, and it's good for the planet. Win-win.
Okay, so we've got understanding our finances, controlling costs, pricing strategically. But what about those curveballs, the unexpected expenses that always seem to pop up?
Ah, yes. Those unexpected costs, those can throw a real wrench in the works.
Like when the oven breaks down or you've got a plumbing issue.
Exactly. That's why you need what's called a contingency fund, some extra money set aside for those just-in-case moments.
The restaurant equivalent of a rainy day fund.
That's a great way to put it. It's your safety net. Having that extra cash can mean the difference between, weathering the storm and having to close your doors.
So we've covered a lot. Understanding those financials, keeping costs in check, pricing things right. But before we wrap up, I want to touch on something that's really important to me. Future-proofing your business. The London food scene is constantly changing. So how do you stay ahead of the game?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It's like we're trying to predict the next food trend while, still perfecting tonight's menu.
Right. Future-proofing isn't about having a crystal ball, though. It's more like building a business that can handle change, It's about thinking long-term, not just about the flavor of the month.
So where do we even begin with that? How do you future-proof a restaurant, especially in a city like London?
Well, let's talk tech for a minute. We talked about it with marketing, but it's really changing how the whole industry works.
Okay, so more than just online ordering and those little tablets they bring you the bill on?
Way more. Think about those delivery apps. Deliveroo, Uber Eats, they're huge now, right? Especially in London, everyone wants that convenience. So having a good online ordering system, being on those platforms, that's essential.
It's like your restaurant isn't confined to just those four walls anymore.
Exactly. And it's not just delivery either. You've got table management software now, helps you optimize seating, cut down on wait times, makes things run smoother, especially when it's busy.
Happy customers, happy bottom line. I like it. What else is out there tech-wise?
Data analysis is huge. Gathering all this info from online orders, reservations, even social media. You can see your most popular dishes, peak times, even what people in certain neighborhoods are ordering.
It's like having a cheat sheet for success.
Right. Imagine knowing what dishes people rave about or spotting a new trend before anyone else. That's the power of data.
Okay, so tech is key, but what about the human side of things? In a world that's like increasingly digital, how do you build those personal connections that keep people coming back?
You've hit on something really important there. Technology, it's a tool, but it can't replace genuine connection. That's where your brand identity comes in.
Okay, we're talking more than just a cool name and a fancy logo.
Oh, yeah, way more. Your brand, it's like the soul of your restaurant, its personality, what makes it memorable. Think about your favorite places. They've got a certain something, a feeling beyond the food itself.
It's that difference between ordering takeout and having an experience.
Exactly. So you need to define your values, your mission, what makes you unique, what kind of atmosphere are you going for, what do you want people to feel when they're there?
Lively and family-friendly, intimate and upscale. Those are two very different vibes.
Exactly. And once you know who you are, you put it into everything. The menu, the decor, the music, how your staff treats people.
So everything's telling the same story.
Yes. And that leads to, I think, the most important part of future-proofing, building loyalty.
Because loyal customers, they're the ones who stick around, right?
Yeah.
They tell their friends, they become like walking advertisements.
You said it. And in a city like London, new places are popping up all the time. Having those loyal customers, that's what keeps you going.
So how do you build that loyalty? It's more than a free dessert on your birthday, isn't it?
It's about the whole package. You got to go above and beyond, make it memorable, make them feel special.
So what does that look like, practically speaking?
Start with the basics. Make it welcoming. Train your staff to be knowledgeable, friendly, passionate about what you're doing. They're the face of your restaurant.
You want people to walk in and feel like regulars, even if it's their first time.
Exactly. Have a loyalty program, reward people for coming back, discounts, early access to new menu items, whatever makes sense for you.
Like a VIP club for your best customers.
Yes, and get personal. Use that tech we talked about. Learn what your customers like, their favorite dishes, any dietary needs, even their birthdays.
Imagine coming in on your birthday and getting a special menu or a glass of champagne on the house.
It's those little touches that go a long way.
They make you want to tell everyone you know.
Exactly. And remember, building loyalty, it takes time. You got to keep at it, really understand your customer.
Nurture those relationships, create a community around what you're doing.
Yes, exactly. That's how you make it in a place like London.
Wow, this deep dive has been incredible. We've talked about everything from finding the perfect location and crunching those numbers to building a brand and keeping those customers happy. It's clear that opening a restaurant in London, it takes passion, planning, and a whole lot of hustle.
It's been a pleasure chatting with you about all this.
And to our listeners, we hope this has given you some food for thought, whether you're dreaming of opening your own place or just navigating the London food scene as an enthusiastic diner.
So tell me, what culinary gap would you fill in London?
Ooh, now there's a question. Until next time, happy eating, everyone.